What is blockchain? And what's it got to do with cryptocurrency? Well, don't be spooked by the technobabble that people use to describe blockchain. A blockchain is essentially just a database. It isn't a particularly sophisticated one either. You could create a spreadsheet within minutes with minimal effort. There are some peculiarities with these databases. The first is that blockchains are append only. What does that mean? Well, that means that you can only add information. You can't just click on a cell and delete stuff that you've already added, changing it in any way, shape or form. It's append only. The second thing is that each entry, which is called a block, in the database is cryptographically linked to the last entry. So when I say that, in plain English, each new entry must contain a sort of a digital footprint, or what we call a digital footprint, a hash. We call a hash, and you'll get familiar with the term hash and hash rates, and yeah, because that's what's happening inside the blocks. So yeah, they each have to have that hash, and they'll be connected to the last one in the block, and that's it really. Since each fingerprint points back to the last one, you end up with a chain. And so yeah, they're all linked, they're all chained together, and you've got blocks, so blockchain. There you go. Yeah. And really what you got to understand is a blockchain is immutable. If you change a block, it changes the footprint. And since the footprint is included in the next block is changed too. And since the block's footprint is changed in that block, well, you get the point. You end up with a dynamo effect where any change becomes evident. You can't alter any information without everyone noticing. So when we think of blockchain and its application, it's a block of information. What kind of information? Well, who sent what to who, and where and how much, with the hashes, etc. So when we think about that, we're talking about a ledger. So it's an actual ledger that you can draw in onto your computer. You can download onto your computer, and you can have this Bitcoin the full ledger of Bitcoin if you wanted to, or any other blockchain on your computer, provided you got the storage space, of course, and that's going to be a heck of a lot of transactions. But yeah, it's essentially a accountable ledger, an account of whose payment went to who, and so on and so forth. So is that it? A bit underwhelming? Yeah, well, yeah, it's fair to say, but you know, the innovation here isn't something cumbersome. It's not an alternative to Google spreadsheets. It's that everyone can download the blocks, as I said, from other people on the network to build identical copies of the blockchain on their computer. That's what the software we mentioned earlier does. Yeah, I reiterate that for you. So, let's suppose that you and your friend Michael, Jane, Susan, Paul are running the software. You might say, I want to send 5 coins to Jane. So you send an instruction to everyone else, but the coins aren't sent to Jane immediately. Michael might decide at the same time to send Susan 5 coins. He also sends his instruction out to the network. At any time, a participant can gather up the pending instructions to create a block. If anyone can create a block, what's stopping them from cheating? What's stopping them from essentially what we call double spending? Well, this is the good part. This is where you get a clear understanding of the technology. It may seem attractive to you to create a block that, say, Michael pays me 1 million coins, or to start buying Lambos and fur coats and stuff like that and making some obscene transactions. But that isn't how it works, because of the cryptography behind it, yeah, the game theory, and something called a consensus algorithm. The system prevents you from sending funds you shouldn't be able to send. Again, I call it a double spend. So you can't double spend because each transaction is cryptographically protected. Yeah. And that's it. That's essentially, I know it's a bit of a short one, but that's what a blockchain is. It's a cryptographically protected ledger. You know, that's immutable. You can't change it. You might find that you get other blockchains, and there's conflicts in the blockchain. Let's take Bitcoin, for example, when we had what we call a fork, and that's another thing. A fork is a branch. So you've got a tree trunk, and then you've got a branch from that tree trunk, and that branch is basically another blockchain, because there's been a change in the protocol. So for Bitcoin, the protocol would be it's got a 1 megabyte block size, so it can only store 1 megabyte of the data in that block. And let's take Bitcoin Cash, for example. They believe that that's going to slow up the transactions too much, and it should be faster. So we might have a 32 megabyte block or an 8 megabyte block, whatever it is now. And so that should increase the speed of transactions by increasing the block size. Yeah. But you should still be able to get the full history of Bitcoin. So it's still connected to the tree. It's just branched out to a branch. It's its own branch essentially. So it's its own blockchain with its own separate ledger. They don't intertwine after it's branched off. Much like a tree doesn't grow another branch and then branches back into the tree. No, it just branches off. And if you're smart and you're wise, and you want a copy of that tree, well, you can cut the branch off and you can clean it up, plant it in soil, and then you got another tree growing essentially. So that's a fork, and you can understand now why it's called a fork. But anyway, in any case, that is it. And yeah, if you want to find out a little bit more, then you kind of really want to watch the next video. And so I think probably, it's going to be, what is a blockchain consensus algorithm, which you'll find right there. What's a blockchain consensus algorithm? And we'll dive into things like what is proof of work, double spending, game theory and cryptocurrencies, and importantly, Byzantine fault tolerance explained, because we build on Stellar. Zioncoins, we build on Stellar, and the consensus mechanism isn't proof of work, isn't proof of stake. It's a consensus mechanism. So it's a Stellar federated consensus protocol. Okay, and we agree on transactions with things called quorums and quorum sets. Okay, so they validate these transactions via quorums and quorum sets. But we'll dive into that once we've had a look at what blockchain consensus algorithms are. All right, so I'm Nathan of Zion. This is Zioncoin News Academy today. See you in the next one, and catch that video. Bye for now.